You don't normally see center consoles on bench seat trucks, but today we're going to attempt to start construction on fabricating our own. If that sounds like something you might want to check out, stick around. What's up, guys, and welcome back to In the Shop TV. My name is Mike, and if you just joined us for the first time, this is my 1955 Chevy truck project that I've been working on for about 2 years now. We just did a 2-year recap video on this entire build from the ground up. So if you just joined us and you want to get caught up, check that video out. It was one video ago, and it shows this complete build in its entirety. Well, recently we did a how to wire your car or truck series, which is doing really well. And we really dumbed down the principle of 12-volt wiring for automotive. Make it stupid simple for pretty much anyone to understand and follow, since I know a lot of people get stressed out with that. This isn't really a wiring video, but it kind of pertains to it today because there's going to be a lot of wiring that goes from our dashboard to the back of our truck and also from our dashboard to the rear of the cab. Audio, speakers, all that type of stuff. And we're going to build a center console today. When I started building this truck, I knew I kind of wanted to have a shifter in the middle, have a center console. I didn't want to do bucket seats though. So I thought, you know what, it'd be kind of cool, you don't see it every day, to have a bench seat truck with a shorter kind of center console in the front of it and a shifter in it. You know, I wanted to keep the bench seat because I'm trying to keep somewhat with that old styling and keep a lot of nods to that old vintage look, but I kind of want to bring in a lot of modern elements and try to sporty it up a little bit where I can as well. So today we're going to start working on our center console. I don't have a plan for it. I don't know how much I'm going to get done. I'm just going to totally wing this, and you guys are going to be along for the journey. It might totally suck, but the good news is if it sucks, we could always start over. Anyway, it's kind of important, and it ties into this video series because we have an LS swap and the ECM for it is just kind of dangling right there on the floor. That's going to get mounted in the center console on the back wall. We got to start running speaker wire and all that type of stuff and get kind of set up for where our radio is going to be. And it's kind of on my mind a little bit more having to run more wires to the back of the vehicle. I want to create a center console that has access so that I can get to that wiring if I ever need to make changes or make repairs. I'm not even sure what I'm going to mount in that center console yet. I know there's going to have a shifter and we're going to have a doubled in radio. I don't really, maybe cup holder if I can fit one, I'm not sure. It's gonna be smaller, it's not gonna be that full length since it's not bucket seats. We're gonna figure this all out together, guys. So if you guys are ready, let's get to it. All right, so the first thing I did was slid my temporary bench seat back in here. This is the actual bench seat that I'm gonna be using, but it has the old upholstery on it for right now. It's gonna be getting recovered. But the size of it and the frame and the skeleton is all that really matters at the moment because we gotta get that front to back length on that center console just right. So I've got it adjusted to where it's gonna sit. I'm gonna leave probably an inch or two wiggle room, just in case I want to change my mind eventually and move the seat from where it is. So with that bench seat in place, I think what I'm going to try to do is I have 2 pieces of cardstock, and I'm going to kind of maybe cut out a rough shape, stick it in place, and to start tracing out where I think it needs to be cut. And I think just keep trimming until we get a really nice custom tight fit. All right, so we've got kind of this basic shape cut out right here. You can see the top of the dashes and the bottom where that firewall comes up. Now I'm going to start working on the shape that comes from the top of the dashboard down and over to the seat. So I think that's going to be our basic shape that we're going to roll with for now. So I taped some pieces in. I decided to change it. The original piece kind of came down like this and then swooped over to the side. And when it was in there, it just kind of didn't look right because it was just really kind of a far skinny strip down right here. And if I have a doubled in radio or a screen right here, it's going to be kind of like pointing at your knee and not really at your face. So I figured kind of having this angle here would help. And I still wanted to keep that kind of radius corner and not have a sharp corner. So I just taped in a little cut piece here and give it that little kind of a radius shape. And I think that looks a lot better. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick it in the truck and see what it looks like. Yeah, definitely, I think I like that a whole lot better. I like the way that looks. All right, so what I did is I have my final shape and I just kind of taped it onto the straight edge of the poster board behind it so that everything is lined up nice and straight. What I'm gonna do now is trace the top profile of it, but the bottom is gonna be different because there's that transmission hump there. So this piece is gonna have to be cut a little bit shorter because it's gonna ride up on top of that transmission cover. All right, guys, so it's the next day, and I looked at that footage, and I realized I just kind of got ahead of myself and flew through everything, and I wasn't really telling you guys what's going on. So it's a good point to pause and tell you what I've done so far and why we've done it. So I decided to use 1/2-inch MDF or medium density fiberboard for this project. I chose it because it's really easy to cut, but mostly because it's really easy to sand and shape and work with. And on our center console, I think that's important because I really want everything to be nice and smooth and uniform. So we've got our basic shape cut out here. I dry fit them in the truck and they seem to fit pretty good, but what I want to do now is I've kind of made this pattern right here, and I want to kind of skeletonize these, if you will, by cutting this area out. Because we have that little fuse terminal down there in the transmission cover, and I also have all my wiring passing through from the dashboard and the fuse terminal through the center console that goes to the back of the vehicle as well. Also, our shifter and shift cable is going to be housed in there, speaker wires, all that good stuff. I really need to have access to that area. So by cutting this out and making kind of access panels or doors or something like that so that I can get there for future use is going to be really key instead of having to remove the whole console. So the next thing I want to do is transfer the same exact pattern onto the piece behind it, since it's going to be open on both sides. After that, this back portion of it, we're going to try to bend it and curve it into shape so that it kind of comes to a semicircle at the back where it meets the bench seat. And I've never done this before, and I'll show you how we're going to attempt that in just a minute. But for right now, let's get this pattern transferred over to the other piece. All right, so we have our centerpieces cut out. We're gonna go ahead later on and make panels that kind of close this off. They're just gonna be access panels. But right now it's a beautiful day, so I'm gonna head outside. And what I wanna do is radius the back of these panels to kind of make the center console curve in towards the seat. And I'll show you how we're gonna do that. Okay, so we're gonna put our radius in there by making a series of what's called curve cuts. Curve cuts are just basically straight lines. They're gonna be about 3/4 of the way through the wood, not all the way through, obviously. And it's just gonna make relief in the surface that we'll be able to fold or bend this side in on itself. I've done this one already to kind of give you guys an idea what it looks like. You can see how nicely that radius is in and curves. So what I have now is a palm router. It's cordless by Milwaukee. And I'm putting a 5/16 roundover bit in there. We're just gonna give a nice radius edge to our workpiece. Now I'm connecting the two halves with a piece of pine because MDF shapes nice and cuts really nice, but it doesn't hold fasteners really well. You can fasten this way to it and it holds really tight, but if you try to screw into it and put a screw in there, it kind of chips and the threads don't hold. It's not really good for screwing into that way. So we're gonna put a piece of pine. We're using an 8-inch piece because a double DIN radio, which is gonna fit right over there, is I believe 7 inches, so we'll allow ourselves a little bit of room on either side. So 8-inch seems like the perfect size piece. Now I'm gonna countersink the holes because we're gonna put a covering over this. I don't wanna see screw heads sticking up. And I'm using 1.25 inch flathead wood screws. Unfortunately, cutting this piece is not going to be so easy. All right, unfortunately, I didn't film it because there's a lot of throwing stuff and some choice language, but what I did is cut this piece right here on, this is 4 inches, by the way. I cut it on a 40-degree angle on both sides and just kind of hand bent it in. I got one side screwed in, then I bent it to the other side and got that side screwed in, and so on and so forth down the line. And it's holding pretty good, and I think it looks pretty good if I don't say so myself. So what I've done is I've taken an 8-inch piece of pine and put it across the top. This is basically gonna be my top mounting solution. I've drilled 2 holes in here, and I've got 2 holes up on the underside of the dash. And what I'm gonna do is basically get some 1/4-20 hardware sticking up from the bottom. Then I'm gonna take some T-nuts and thread them over the top so it bites into that wood. And it'll basically just hold those bolts in place, because getting that up in there with my hand behind the dash and laying on my back is just gonna be really hard. If I have a bolt kind of dangling in and out of here and trying to hold this up and trying to put a nut on the back of it, this will just hold the bolt in place. Obviously, once we tighten those nuts up on the top of there, it'll suck this up close to the dash, and this contour right here will meet the contour of the dash. And it'll kind of look like it's one unit, which is kind of what I was going for. Now the curves create kind of a weak point because we saw it, 3/4 of the way through this MDF. So we've got to come up with a way to strengthen this up. I'm going to order up a shifter to fit in here. We've got to come up with kind of a mounting solution for the shifter body itself and for kind of our bezel that's going to go here for our radio and the shifter plate. I definitely want to put some more bracing in it. Once we put some pine in here between this, that'll kind of solidify this whole area, and maybe when we put a piece of pine in here or another piece of wood to mount our shifter to, it'll really kind of strengthen this up. But I would like to kind of put something across the bottom just to make that a little bit tighter as well. We have really good access down here to all our wiring. I don't know what I want to do for a door yet for here, but we'll try to come up with something kind of cool. I think it might also be a cool idea to maybe get some courtesy lights mounted in here just so it illuminates the floor or under the bench seat for when you open the doors. Also, I think, with these cuts here and this kind of weird piece, we're going to have to come up with a cap for the back of it that fits in here. And then we're going to have to find a way, maybe we'll put some body filler in here. I have a couple ideas to kind of hide that because I do want to cover this with either leather or vinyl or something. I'm not quite sure yet what I'm going to use, but I don't want these little ridges to show up under my covering. You notice I left kind of a little bit of a gap under here, and there's going to be jute and carpeting here, so I kind of wanted to be able to just leave a little bit of allowance for whatever floor covering is going to be down. And obviously, we could squish this down more on top of it if we have to, but I just wanted to leave a little bit of space. Then kind of the whole idea, other than tying this together for that back piece of pine, was to mount our E38 computer. That's kind of the only thing that I kind of pre-planned out, is I knew that was going to be the perfect spot for it. And there's plenty of depth here that it won't be in the way of whatever radio we install or anything. I don't know about you guys, I'm definitely a lot better when it comes to mechanical and wiring and stuff like that, especially electrical. But, woodworking kind of frustrates me at times. I think it came out really good. I'm happy with it so far. But right down here, this part where it has this transmission hump, this just gave me a lot of problems trying to get that contour just right. There's a lot of different shapes and valleys and peaks and everything, and it just wouldn't lay right, and it's pretty frustrating, to be honest with you. In all honesty, I guess we have the 6L80E transmission to blame because, well, if we didn't have that, we'd have the flat transmission cover, and I think this would have been way, way easier if we had that. What do you guys think so far? You love it? You hate it? You got some ideas? You got some visions for it you want to share with me? I don't know where I'm going with it yet, so go ahead and leave them in the comments. I might just take one of your designs. Just don't copyright it. This is a seemingly small, simple project, but lo and behold, there's really kind of a lot to do with it. There'll definitely be a couple more videos on it, and there's a whole lot to do on this truck, as you guys can see. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Please hit that like button. It really helps out this channel way more than you think. Leave me a comment. You guys want to ask me anything, leave it down below. I love trying to get to all your comments and answer them. And as always, guys, until next time, I'll see you in the shop. Then we're going to take some T-nuts and thread them down through the top that grabs hold of